boy, today we're going to be talking about the Storm King's Wrath. This is, okay, bold claims right out the gate, the strongest weapon in the entire game. It's only second to my creator code, which you should plug into the shop right now. Code Mista at your next checkout. This weapon has been clocked in at over 10 million damage. I'm going to plug Tic Tac's video in the description below because that is amazing. I'm not saying that's the highest you can hit. It's definitely not practical. He goes way more into it. But if you set it up right, this thing is a powerhouse. And I would never recommend double crit damage crit rating on a weapon that fires this slow, 1.7 times, per second. But it is, 1.7 between shots. But it hits for so much that it just doesn't matter. When I'm alone, it hits for about 300,000, which is actually pretty normal. I mean, the other powerhouse to compare it to is the Metal Marauder and the Santa's Little Helper. So that's at 300,000, roughly 295, and the Santa's Little Helper with triple damage is at 304,000. These are the other top tier rockets to compare it to. The Deatomizer is a different breed. Okay, like it doesn't hit that hard on paper, but trust me, that thing's insane. I honestly think its paper stats are bugged, but this weapon is so amazing because of it, not only like the amount of damage that you're seeing here, but the crit. It is a dead accurate laser beam, which makes it such an amazing weapon. Like the Santa's Little Helper I mentioned hits for more, as you can see, but this thing doesn't have to reload. It shoots about 4 times before, having to cool down just a little bit, and then you can run 2 of these, switch back and forth, and it's an amazing thing. Now, what the other weapons can't do that I just mentioned, the Deatomizer can kind of do this, is group damage. So if you charge it up for about 3 seconds, it'll shoot 3 beams, which jump to all the enemies around it, and you can hit upwards of 24 enemies for, critting each in their own separate ways for over 1 million damage from one shot, consuming 60 energy cells, and then just my weapon had to recharge a little bit. So it's an amazing powerhouse of a weapon. In fact, I don't even think I'm going to cut up this clip too much. I think I'm just going to let it play as I'm just defending this entire whatever side of the map that we didn't have any traps. This Storm King's Wrath alone was enough to just handle it all, and I wasn't even running a good loadout. It was a melee loadout, I was running the Ravager with it. The Storm King's Wrath doesn't even need too much to talk about. There is one thing that I want to discuss that's worth, I guess, a few things. So we'll start with fire rate. This is a personal preference. I think that shooting this weapon more often is a better way to go. I think you just, zap, zap, zap is nice to have, but depending on what you're doing, damage to miss monsters and bosses can be really, really nice. I've tested it, and from my own personal eyeball, this might be wrong, but my own personal eyeball, the damage to miss monsters and bosses does not help on the crystals with the Storm King. So if you're running the Storm King over and over and over like we do, that's not going to help you. But if you are using this for mini bosses or smashers or missed monsters, that's obviously great to have 36% extra damage. But if you want this to, spread out to the other enemies, you're going to want probably just straight up damage. And that leads me to the other thing I was talking about. I have it spec'd for a crit build. That seems to be the thing because its base damage, like I mentioned, is so high that it doesn't really need to have any extra damage perks. It's just good all around. And then if it does crit, that's what really brings in the damage. The problem with that is that crits don't always happen. You'll shoot 1, 2, 3, 4 times in a row without even critting, and then you're just feeling like a wimp. So in a more perfect world, again, if you're running this for Storm King, you might want to keep the miss monsters and bosses, because mini bosses is basically where you really need this thing, and then triple damage. That would be a lot more consistent and a lot more regular damage that you can trust. But I think the crit damage might just be a better way to go overall. Personally, that would be so much reperk to consume. 1800 just to swap the perks, and then 1800 if I don't like it. So I'm going to stick to crit rating double crit damage, but I want you to know that I think triple damage is extremely viable. I mean, we're running no damage because its damage is enough anyway. So I can't imagine there's a bad way to perk a powerhouse like this. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was physical versus energy. Energy is best all around, hands down. I'm fighting the Storm King a lot. I'm running help streams, subscribe for those. And our Discord is a help section for the Mythic Storm King, which I rarely, but sometimes participate in. So I keep it physical for that reason, but I think when the Storm King help streams die down, or maybe I get a second schematic for this, or if I just stop caring, I'm definitely going to make this energy, because you'll be doing, if you ever come up against an elemental enemy, you'll be doing 25% less damage if it's not energy. But every other enemy, you're going to be doing 24% more damage if they're not elemental. So energy is the best of both worlds, but physical is definitely the way to go for what I've been doing, which is the Storm King streams. That's it for the best perks, you guys. There's really not that much to talk about. Cooling rate and heat capacity is irrelevant. There are very few mobs in the game that aren't going to die from the 4 shots that this thing can, rattle off before it overheats. and you don't really need to wait too long for it to overheat because you can just carry 2 of these things or switch off to another weapon temporarily. I have not found that to be necessary at all, but of course you can know that those perks are there. So that's it for the Storm King's Wrath. Not too much to talk about. Literally, seriously, one of the best weapons in the game. I think if you don't care about the energy cells and you don't care about the cost of crafting these things, trust me, they break quick when it's your primary weapon. You could probably just use the Storm King's Wrath for group area of effect damage and just, you know, insane. It's basically a laser beam. I mentioned this in a comment on a video I saw. In fact, I think it was Tic Tac's video, the one that I linked below, that this weapon looks as though a hacker hacked the game and gave you a one-shot laser beam with perfect accuracy, and it really is just amazing that Epic was okay with adding a weapon this powerful. But that's it for me. This is definitely going to be one of my new favorite weapons. I'm so glad that I got this. You know, props to anybody who unlocked this weapon. Enjoy it. Let me know how much you love it in the comments below. Use creator code Mista at the checkout. Subscribe if you're new. Like the video. Check out our Discord link below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a nice day.